Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we have the expansion announcement, the long-awaited one. We are getting the expansion of Perils in Paradise, a dual class expansion, but in a different way. No dual class cards, we're getting dual class deck building with tourist legendaries for every class that lets them tap into another class. There's gonna be like new locations and a bunch of pirates. We're gonna review a bunch of cards, including 2 of those tourist cards, a free legendary that's live right now in the game. If you wanna go log into Hearthstone, you can play with it. And as always, we're announcing our giveaway for 2 regular pre-orders, 1 mega bundle out of my pocket. To enter that giveaway, like and comment on this video down below. Be subscribed to the channel, and every 1,000 subs we get until all the cards are revealed, I will add another mega bundle, so there's no limit on it. We get to 83, we add another one, 84, we add another one. So hit that sub button, make me go baroque. And before we get into the tourist cards, I wanna go over the free legendary that's live right now in the game in Marin the Manager, a 7-mana 6/6 pirate. Battle cry: choose a fantastic treasure, shuffle the other 3 into your deck. Treasures are the same as like Heist Baron Togwoggle or the original like Marin the Fox, where you get Zerog's Crown, which lets you discover a legendary minion, summon 2 copies of it. That will also add it to your hand. They buffed that a while ago. Toland's Goblet, where you draw a card, fill your hand with copies of it. Wanderous Wand, draw 3 cards, reduce their costs to 0. And Golden Kobold, Battle Cry, replace your hand with legendary minions. So you play this card, you immediately get one of those treasures added to your hand. You still have to spend the mana on playing it, and then you can get those other cards down the road. I feel like a lot of the time you're gonna wanna go Wand and immediately rip those 0 mana cards. Seems like a pretty good Highlander style deck, an Reno deck. Kind of puts Marut to shame almost. Like, I think this is just better than Marut, which has a whole Highlander requirement. I feel like this can see play. It can do scams. You can do some ridiculous stuff where you play Toplet and hit like a handful of Renos, for example, or whatever. There's some scams with it. The only one that's kind of bad is replacing your hand with legendary. So just don't pick that one, and maybe you play that in the late game when you've done other options. It is a 7-mana 6/6. It can be quite slow, so there is that, but Rogue can prep it, and I feel like Rogue can do some shenanigans with it, or Shadow Step Merit, or Breakdance Merit, and do some pretty crazy stuff. I'm gonna give this a 4 to 5. I think this sees play, and we'll see how it develops, because it is live right now. It could very well work out, and while they'll give it a 2, where I do think, yeah, it's probably a little bit too slow. Anyways, on to the dual class deck building. So the first dual class legendary we have here is Buttons, a 5-mana 5/5 undead for Death Knight, and basically he's a Shaman tourist. It'll allow you to deck build with Shaman cards in Death Knight, but it does come with the restriction: you can only build with cards from Perils in Paradise. So you can't get like core set Shaman cards in your deck, or Badlands cards, or anything in Wild. That would just break the game. There'd just be too many combinations. It'd just be insane. So they limited it just to this expansion, and every class will get a tourist legendary and will be able to take from another class. So we have this chart here where Paladin will be able to grab from Rogue, Rogue will be able to build from Warlock, Warlock will be able to build from Death Knight. Again, Death Knight building from Shaman, as we've seen, Shaman from Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter from Priest, Priest from Hunter, Hunter from Warrior, Warrior from Druid, Druid for Mage, and Mage from Paladin. We'll have to really see what that Warrior one looks like, because Warrior from Druid with armor gain, yikes. Anyways, on to Buttons himself. 5-mana 5/5 undead. He's a Shaman tourist, as I said. Battle Cry, you draw a spell of each spell school, which pretty good considering, like, you know, Shaman spells. You might have a fire one, a nature one that normally Death Knight doesn't have access to, so it's a nice draw engine, but more importantly, it opens up you to be able to play Shaman cards, and obviously we don't know all of them, so pretty hard card to evaluate, but I feel like the possibilities this will open up is really darn cool. And if you're wondering about rune restrictions of like you're playing Warlock into Death Knight, you still have to abide by rune rules. It still all works that way regardless, I don't know how to evaluate these cards like at all until we see all the cards, but it's such a cool card, such a cool concept, and I'm very excited to see what it ends up leading to. And the mini set cards that will come out later in like 2 months or 3 months, I guess, will be legal for this pool as well. So there'll be like 10 expansion cards for each class, 3 mini set cards. There'll be a lot of possibilities. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 in standard, 2 out of 5 in wild, because like, again, it's modern cards, but again, the new cards are always just so much broken. Maybe you play it there in odd Deathlight. But yeah, I'll give it a 4 in standard and a 2 in wild. But we have one more tourist legendary to go over, which is the Paladin one, Sun-sapper Lessa, a 5-mana 2/6 rogue tourist. Your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. So you like Hand of a Doll, you draw 2 cards, you get 2 buffs. Guardian's Grace and Wild, you could get even more of those, or get some extra excavates with your Shroomscavate, which would not have worked with that when it was 3 mana. So there is some possibilities with this. Again, we'll have to see what rogue spells are made this set too, and paladin spells. A pretty high health 5-mana minion might be a bit more on the expensive side, but again, it enables you to take rogue cards, which are historically pretty broken. You know, we'll see what the set looks like, but you'll be able to put those rogue cards into your paladin deck and do some pretty good stuff. I have a feeling I'm going to be giving like a 4 or 5 to most of these cards, because again, what it opens up, the creativity will allow, and I just feel like somehow, you know, a playable deck will come from these. So again, 4 to 5 in standard, and I will give it a 2 out of 5 in wild, because again, it is restricted to that standard element. Another major thing we're going to see this set is different style of locations. We have a new location here of Hiking Trail. It is a druid location, 3 mana, 3 durability. You discover a taunt minion. So not great, not amazing. However, after you gain armor, reopen this. So what that means, you use that one use, and normally it goes into like the sleep mode where you can't use it for like 2 turns. You could just use it right away. If you hero power, gain some armor, I can discover another taunt minion immediately, gain another armor a little bit later. You can do it all in 1 turn if you gain a bunch of armor. So that could be 3 mana with some manipulation of your armor, get 3 taunts in that turn. Is that good? I don't know. Every time we get a card that says discover a taunt minion lately, it's very mediocre, and Druid in particular isn't really doing a lot with that, but you know, Reno Druid is a playable deck, and there is just, you know, a value generation with this. But I have learned from my poor reviews not to look at value very strongly. I just don't see his taunt minis as being super worth. But again, all it takes is a hero power to refresh this. Like, that's not too much to ask. I'll give it a 2 out of 5 in standard and wild. Definitely not because he played wild word. Like, again, everything's so broke in that format. You have to go into a prior broken strategy or somehow break an old card. I don't think that's doing this, even with Hadronox existing in that format. I'll give it a 2 there. But again, we're going to be seeing locations like this throughout this expansion reveal season. And speaking of locations, we have a new neutral minion, the Travel Agent, a 2-mana 2/2 battle cry. Discover a location from any class. So that can be your own, but yeah, locations in general are really good. I feel, again, this is a really, probably a solid Reno deck style of card, just to give you some value, maybe some removal, maybe some card draw. Getting that discover option will make it pretty flexible, and locations in general are just really good, right? And if you have Brand and Warrior, I guess you could get 2 more or 1 more. You double the battle cry. These type of cards historically can see play in Rogue, if they really want, can shadow step this and play it for 0 and just play a bunch of locations. So who knows? I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 in standard. I see it slotting into some of those Reno decks, maybe some other strategy out there, and there's a lot of good locations out there. I don't think you want to sleep on this one too much. Wild, probably again a little bit too slow. I'll give it a 2 there, but you never know. Maybe those even decks want to utilize that if, you know, even decks are a thing. And by the way, get in Baku, check out the patch notes video in a little bit. Those are playable in standard right now. Yeah, that's crazy. We have one more neutral legendary here in AFK. Yes, AFK makes her debut in Hearthstone from Battlegrounds. She's a 5-mana 0/5. That's rough. However, the text on the card says at the end of your turn, give all other, so not herself, all other friendly minions that didn't attack +2 +2. So this could be a total stat buff of 12-12. If you have 6 other minions on the board that haven't attacked, and you can Drakari Enchanter and Wild and double dip on that. Overall, it does feel incredibly slow. It definitely requires you to be very board heavy and be winning on the board. It does work if you play this and like summon a bunch of other stuff at the same time. Those minions, unless they have rush or charge, will not have attacked. So there is that. But overall, we're in a very non-board heavy meta right now in Hearthstone in general, where minions need to do stuff really fast, need to have an immediate impact. And I guess it does have that immediate impact if you've summoned a bunch of stuff, get the buffs, and you know, they don't kill this, it can get out of control, but also you can't attack with those minions that are getting buffed. It's kind of weird. I don't see it as being a big meta player. I feel like in older Hearthstone, it'd be absolutely a crazy card. In modern Hearthstone, I am not entirely sold. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5 in Standard and Wild, but I could be wrong on this one for the fact that, yeah, maybe it's harder to remove, although it's only 5 health on 5 mana, but the rest of the stuff it buffs just kind of reminds me of Fungal Mancer back in the day, but that you could actually just attack with right away and immediately, but you know, only 2 minions. Regardless, we'll see how it plays out, but definitely not sold on this one. Also have a new mechanic coming into this expansion, which comes with Drink Server, a 2-mana 2/2 Murloc Pirate Death Rattle. Get a random drink spell. It has 3 uses, and if you want to know what a drink spell is, we'll take a look at an example right after this, but I believe there's going to be 6 in this expansion, so you'll have like a 1 of 6 of getting it, but it's a death rattle. It's pretty slow. I'm sure the variance on like what drink you'll get will probably not make this a meta card, more of like the pack filler to highlight what these type of cards are and let you experience all the drinks at your will. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 in Standard and 1 in Wild. Probably not going to make the cut, but what is a drink? Let's go over an example where we have the Molten Magma, a 2-mana fire drink spell for Shaman, where you deal 1 damage to all enemies. And you basically just get to use this 3 different times. I mentioned the other day, I'd like to see like a Twin Spell come back. That's basically what this is. You get 3 different versions. They all have their own artwork, kind of similar to like the bananas, right? Where you get to use those and you run out of them, and dealing 1 damage to all enemies is perfectly fine. Amplifies well with spell damage. The flexibility of it allows some, you know, nice stuff. Thankfully, it's not a nature spell, so it doesn't go into like nature OTK or anything like that, but very flexible AoE. Definitely something you're going to want to consider in your Reno Shaman deck and decks of that nature. I will give it a 4 out of 5 in Standard. I think this absolutely can see play, and maybe in Wild, where you want that AoE and you're like Shudderwalk Shaman, it could absolutely make the cut, so I will give it a 3 in that format. And speaking of pirates, we have another one here of Weapons Attendant, a 6-mana 6/4 pirate Battle Cry. If you control another pirate, equip a random weapon from your deck. Very similar to like an old card. It's like a 7-mana 6/6 that just equipped a random weapon from your deck. This is 1 mana cheaper, 2 less health, and has a condition. Seems bad, like really bad to me, because you're not going to want to play this unless it's active, but maybe there's like a big weapon that's going to be coming that you really want to tutor and cheat out. Other than that, I can never see this card being worth it. Even like a Frostmourne in Death Knight, I don't think I want to play pirates just to make that work. I don't see this as a relevant card as it stands. If we see a really busted big weapon at some point, then yeah, absolutely you could see play, not only to play it, but to tutor it. Could be pretty darn good. Maybe, I guess, in Deathlight again, like Seafoam Render or whatever it's called, that could be all right, but like, I just can't imagine building around it like this. I'm gonna give this a 1 in Standard and a 1 in Wild. I just feel like it's incredibly slow. It feels like an older card, a balanced-ish style of card, so definitely not playable in modern Hearthstone. Speaking of weapons, we have a Paladin weapon, the Volleyball, 3-mana 3/2 weapon. After your hero attacks, get a 1-cost sunscreen that gives +1/+2. So you just get a little bit of a spell to buff up your stuff, when you could just play a 4-mana weapon that immediately buffs everything +1/+1, has more durability, has lifesteal. You might want to play it. It works with like Ladessa. You double cast that sunscreen. It's less than 2 mana or 2 or less, so it works with that. But overall, I feel it's probably awkward and slow, but you can like upgrade this, get even more if you really want with like the air guitarist. I'll give it a 2 out of 5 in standard, a 2 out of 5 in wild, although Odd Paladin, it actually could be something, but Odd Paladin hasn't been in anything for a while, and I doubt this really elevates it. We have Petty Theft, a new rogue spell. Get 2 random 1-cost spells from other classes. That could vary drastically. 1-cost spells are typically quite nice, really nice in a Burgle deck, your Spectral Cutlass deck. But right now, excavates in value and just, nothing is lacking in Rogue for that. And I don't feel like this trumps any of that. We'll have to see if there's any like specific synergies that open up. By the way, you could put this in your Paladin deck, so you could keep that in mind, right? This is a Paladin card for this expansion. It's kind of crazy to think about how that'll work. Regardless, I'll give it a 2 out of 5 in standard, a 2 out of 5 in wild. Probably not making the cut. But hey, Paladin actually getting a little bit of value. We have the Cabaret Headliner, a 4-mana 3/3 Naga or Shaman. Battlecry, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 2. Thankfully, Demon Hunter can't pull from Shaman, so they can put this with like Sharpshooter. But we know that Shaman likes, you know, the whole spell school stuff, and this is a lot of mana cheat. You could hit like 3, 4, whatever spells, and we know how effective that could be. This could go into like, again, an OTK style of like Nature Shaman deck and just open up some really gross stuff. You got the new drink that would be 0 mana with this, at least the first use or the second or third, whatever one you hit. Really scary card. And you can shutter block this, I guess, and reduce these cards by like 6, which is also pretty terrifying. I will never write off Mass Mana Cheat. I'm not a fan of Mass Mana Cheat. You all know that. I don't know if I'm really excited for a card like this, but the power level could absolutely be there. Look out for it. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 in standard. I'll give it a 3 out of 5 in wild, because you just absolutely never know how that could open things up. And the last card we have to go over is the Corpsicle, a 2-mana frost spell, single frost rune for Death Knight, where you deal 3 damage, spend 3 corpses to return this to your hand at the end of your turn. So it's very reminiscent of like Infatize of Maxitude, where you get to play it, but you don't get it back till later. And that's a corpse spender, right? This is a corpse spender. You can get your Climactic Necrotic Explosion going, heat out your giants, your Stitch Giants, and this is damage that can go face. It can hit anything. It just seems really good. I know, like, I've been playing a lot of Reno Rainbow Death Knight. I would absolutely love this card in this deck. I could just use it to remove threats or just push burn. Really good card for rainbow decks in my opinion, and you can discover more of these. It's a frost spell pretty reliably. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 in standard. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 in wild, where those strategies not quite as prevalent have existed and absolutely have a shot. So there you go. All the cards are revealed so far. We're gonna be reviewing all the cards, all expansion reveal long. Should be a lot of fun. I'm gonna have a patch notes video later today with, yes, Get Baku coming to standard and so much more. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.